Philosophy. Many people feel that philosophy is not relevant to their lives. That feeling is completely mistaken, but it's understandable how someone could come to feel that way. Why do people ignore or even actively dislike philosophy? It's true that the corporate media is averse to serious thought, and educational institutions fear daring to confront students with any deep questions or thinking. So, yes, we could probably blame these factors for people not wanting to delve deeply into the complexities of philosophy. However, academic philosophy must accept a significant share of the blame for the widespread distaste for philosophy. Roger Scruton, the late grandee of English philosophy, had this to say about the woeful state of academic philosophy. Quote, I am struck by the thin and withered countenance that philosophy quickly assumes, when it wanders away from art and literature, and I cannot open a journal like Mind or the Philosophical Review without experiencing an immediate sinking of the heart, like opening a door into a morgue. Unquote. I agree. Philosophy journals are like morgues, devoid of life, removed from the living, and instead dedicated to that which is dead. Well, is philosophy alive or dead? There are two types of philosophers, living ones and dead ones. The problem is that many academic philosophers who are biologically alive are actually intellectually dead. Philosophy isn't dead, but most philosophers are, not just those people writing papers for academic journals, but also those teaching philosophy courses. One major mistake made by both the journal philosophers and the teachers of philosophy is their obsessive focus on the past. To be sure, any field of study needs to be grounded in what has come before. The present rests on the foundation of the past. But aside from the undeniable pleasure of satisfying our curiosity, studying the past is useful only in its application for our present and future. If we aren't connecting the past to ourselves and our situations today, then our efforts are of little value. The excessive attention given to philosophy's past contributes to the common impression that philosophy is about studying dead white guys. That impression is reinforced by the standard philosophy curriculum and mass market books that fixate on ancient philosophy. So many philosophy books show on their covers ancient Greek or Roman buildings or statues. The recent fad of candy-coated stoicism contributes to the false notion that philosophy is a thing of the ancient past. Another major mistake made by the academic philosophers is their failure to engage with real life. The most profound and influential philosophers of the past became that way because they addressed real-life issues and offered new ways of thinking about them, at least in their time. A question I commonly receive from my philosophy students is which philosophers active today I think will be discussed a century from now. I tell them honestly that I can't think of many, if any. Maybe Kwame Appiah or Judith Butler, but that's it, and maybe one other of whom I am not yet ready to speak. For too long now, academic philosophy has been dominated by recursive wordplay and endless iterations. I recently ran across a philosophy journal paper that was a reply to person A's comments on person B's response to person C's blank by person D. The names have been changed to protect the innocent, or at least avoid embarrassment for the family. Not all academic journal papers are that absurd, but this example illustrates the genuinely and generally incestuous tenor of what now passes for philosophy. These philosophers seem to fear taking inquiry into new territory, as indicated by said person D's opening statement in that paper that, and I quote, I am not concurring with person B, nor am I debating him, unquote. Seriously. The watchwords of academic philosophy are, don't be too original, don't raise controversies. You won't get tenure if you rock the boat. The pressure on academic philosophers to stay within well worn paths is a significant damper on their scholarly work. In response, philosophers limit themselves to iterative interchanges among philosophers from the distant past or merely duel over their preferred terminologies. Philosophers stay within the graveyard, debating over what should be etched into the tombstones. This contributes to academic philosophy's failure to venture out into the village and come to terms with the real world. We could show the average person any philosophy journal from the past few decades, and that person would find little to nothing in it with which they could relate. The person's disconnect would not be because of the complexities of academic terminology, but simply because the journal's contents have nothing to offer people living in the reality outside the confines of academia's well-worn paths. Academic philosophers sit within philosophy's graveyard, methodically treading circles around the grave markers of dead philosophers and sparring over past ideas. The rest of humanity lives in the village and are living and experiencing life. The university lecturers offer tours of the graveyard and the retelling of ghost stories, but they aren't much interested in hearing from those who live in the village, much less addressing their concerns. Is it any surprise that people might say, "What has Athens to do with my village?" That village, of course, is the village of humanity, of all of us. It is no wonder that people who dislike philosophy do so because they look only at the graveyard, because that's all academic philosophy shows them. People see only the grave markers, because academic philosophers see only the grave markers. It is no surprise that when those few philosophers, like me, enter the village and speak of real life, that they are dismissed, either scoffed at like Plato's escaped prisoner, or feared and reviled like Nietzsche's Zarathustra. People don't know what to do with philosophers who appear alive and active in their village. People can be forgiven for their preconceptions. Their dislike of philosophy comes from philosophy being falsely portrayed to them. Philosophy was not born in the graveyard, but in the village. It must return to the village, or it will remain effectively dead. I left the graveyard and do not offer tours or tell ghost stories. I respect those buried in the graveyard, and I have learned from their writings. But I engage with people in the village and learn from their lived experiences. Convincing people that philosophy is relevant to them is a tough sell, with good reason. People have been misled to believe that philosophy is dead. Regardless, it would not hurt them to be more open-minded, because philosophy is very much alive. Philosophy helped build the village in which we all live, and philosophy can help us maintain it.